Hey YouTube, Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Salamangreat Yugioh deck profile for post the January 2020 ban list. I want to do an update to the Salamangreat deck. This was actually the deck I mained at my local Yu-Gi-Oh shop for a good while now, and it actually took a surprising hit on the ban list. I actually didn't expect them to hit Mirage Stalio of all the different cards in the deck. I honestly thought they would have hit Foxy or Will of the Salamangreat before they hit Mirage Stalio, but the more that I think about it, the more that hit actually did make a lot of sense, since the card was just basically a free special summon and then also a free bounce of one of your opponent's cards once you use it for a link summon. So it did help to set up a lot of different plays, and without it, the deck definitely needed some tweaking to see what could be fixed or what could be changed to make the play still work overall with the deck. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So to start off, for the monsters, I run 3 Salamangreat Foxy. Still one of the best cards in the deck for its search power. When it's normal summon, you excavate the top 3 cards of your deck. If you do, you can add 1 excavated Salamangreat card to your hand. Also shuffle the rest into the deck. If this card is in your graveyard and a face-up spell or trap is on the field, you can discard 1 Salamangreat card to special summon this card. Then you can destroy 1 face-up spell or trap on the field. You can only use the effects of Salamangreat Foxy once per turn, but the destruction effect also helps for destroying your opponent's face-up spell and trap, since you just have to discard a Salamangreat card and target a face-up one. So if your opponent has a continuous spell, trap, or field spell, you can easily destroy it. But if not, you have your own resources as well to rely on if you need to resort to that and not go after your opponent's cards. But most of the time, I just use Foxy for the search. But if I need to make an additional rank 3 play with Foxy and let's say Spinny on the field, it definitely does help and come in handy. Speaking of Spinny, I'm still running 3 Salamangreat Spinny in the deck as well. If you control a Salamangreat card, you can discard this card, then target 1 face-up monster on the field. It gains 500 attack until the end of this turn. If you control a Salamangreat monster other than Salamangreat Spinny, and this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon this card but banish it when it leaves the field. You can only use each effect of Spinny once per turn. It's just an easy special summon, and still going for some of the rank 3 plays in the deck to help with a lot of the setup. Spinny does come in handy, since when you use it for an exceed summon, you won't lose the card for your banish, since it was detached as an exceed material, and you'll be able to use it again next turn, since you can only use each Spinny effect once per turn. And I also am still running 2 Salamangreat Jaguar. Normally with Jaguar, I always resort to siding one of the cards out if I need extra side material with the deck, but also with Jaguar, it's just great setup in the graveyard, especially for special summoning, and also lets me recycle some of my other Salamangreat link monsters back into the extra deck to use later on. Especially with the reincarnation link summon, I can go very, very quickly through my extra deck, so having the recycle power once per turn with Jaguar, and the fact that this card also has piercing, is a definite boost for the deck. Being also one of the stronger Salamangreat monsters in the deck to get over some of my opponent's pesky cards definitely does help as well. And I also now, for the one-ofs, probably still the best card in the deck, but sadly at 1 on the ban list is Salamangreat Gazelle. With this one, if a Salamangreat monster is sent to your graveyard, except Gazelle, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand. And if it's normal or special summon, you can send 1 Salamangreat card from your deck to the graveyard, except Gazelle. You can use each effect of Gazelle once per turn. So whether it's setting up a Salamangreat spell or trap in your graveyard to use, or even just setting up a Spinny for you then to special summon back onto the field to use for either your link plays with Gazelle or for your exceed plays, very, very useful. And the fact that if you send another Salamangreat, let's say for a link summon, you can special summon Gazelle from your hand and just extend your plays from there. I also run 1 Salamangreat Foul. Depending on the type of decks I play against, Foul could also be a potential card I side out, just because it helps with the additional summoning onto the field and also shutting down my opponent's back row. But other than that, just in here for the additional spot to have different Salamangreat cards also, and the 1 Salamangreat Falco, so I always have the setup to recycle my Salamangreat spell or traps in the graveyard back onto the field, and also an easy special summon by returning Salamangreats on my field to the hand to special summon this card, making more for a defensive play. If I have a link monster in attack mode that I don't want to be attacked, I could return it, special summon Falco, and then just rely on that for the rest of the turn, playing a more defensive strategy against my opponent. Or very, very useful with Jaguar to use Foul and Falco to go into rank 4 plays as well. And that's it for the Salamangreat monsters. For the non-Salamangreat monsters, back to 3 is Lady Debug. If this card is normal or special summon, you can add 1 level 3 or lower Cybers monster from your deck to your hand. You can only use each effect of Lady Debug once per turn. The search power, I would say definitely did help that we got 3 Lady Debug back off the list since they hit Mirage Heatlio. Just having more search options. It's not special summon options, but just being able to get more and more cards into our hand. That can be easily special summoned with cards like Will of the Salamangreat, since it doesn't have to rely on the graveyard, is a big help from Lady Debug. And being another level 4 monster, it's just another easy monster to special summon into your rank 4 monsters, using it as overlay material with cards like Jaguar, Falco, and also your Salamangreat Fowl. And I still do like to run the 3 Flame Buffalo just for the Battlelinks play to discard draw and also get the field spell search. Very, very nice to either open up Ladybug or this as my first turn normal summon, or Foxy, so I should always at least have to see one of them in the hand for good plays. I no longer run Sea Archiver. It mostly worked best with the Mirage Heatlio play. If you want to try and adjust some numbers of Sea Archiver in the deck, you could try reducing the number of Flame Buffalo to 1 and put in 1 additional Sea Archiver, but that's really the player preference at that point if you really want to try for that. But I just don't like it as much when I go for the Exceed play. It's mostly for my other setup, which we'll show when we get to the extra deck. And then to finish off the monsters for the hand traps, I run 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, just the standard hand trap lineup if my opponent's going first, and I have the option to shut them down with the cards in my hand. Ash Blossom definitely does help for disrupting a good amount of their plays, and also if they go for the big plays off the special summoning on the first turn, I like to run 3 Nibiru. This is just what I've ran into at my locals to be good for the main deck plays. If you don't want to run Nibiru in your main deck and more of a side deck card for yourself, you can take this out. If you have the Phantasmaze, you can play that. If you have Effect Veiler, Ghost Ogre, it can also be filled in for this final spot for the deck. Some other cards I tried testing around for the main deck was the new Pot of Avarice off the list, Monster Reborn, you name it. These could all be slots filled in by those spells as well if you want to try them out, and just use the Ash Blossoms for your main focus for the hand traps. And that is it for the monsters. We'll now move on to the spells. I run 1 Salamangreat Circle and the 1 Salamangreat Sanctuary. Circle's on the ban list at 1, and you really only need the 1 Salamangreat Sanctuary since you can recycle it back to your hand if it's destroyed with cards like Sunlight Wolf, and also it's searchable with cards like Bowlink, so you really don't need multiples of this card in the deck since you can rely on that easy search first turn by just having 1 monster to link summon into Bowlinks and then easily search it. And really drawing this card is the biggest weakness because it gives you a -1 in your hand when you could have easily just searched it for just 1 monster on the field. And Circle can be recycled with cards like Sunlight Wolf or Falco in the graveyard as well to reuse to keep searching out your Salamangreat monsters. And I also run probably one of the best spells in the deck is Will of the Salamangreat. During your main phase, you can special summon 1 Salamangreat monster from your hand or graveyard. You can send this face-up card to the graveyard, then target 1 Salamangreat Link monster you control that was link summoned using monsters with the same name as material. Special summon Salamangreat monsters from your hand and or graveyard in defense position up to the number of that monster's link rating. You can only use 1 Will of the Salamangreat effect per turn, only once that turn. So the special summon setup with this card, I would say, is definitely the best thing you have going for it, since you can easily just get back link monsters of high link ratings to use for your plays, and then also special summon out monsters from your hand that you potentially search off of Lady Debug. So running 3 of this always assures that I will search it, or if my opponent goes to destroy this card, if I don't have the recycle means, hopefully I can at least draw into another one and then use that to keep extending my plays. It definitely does help and saves the deck. I'm really glad this didn't get hit on the ban list because, like I said, it makes so many of your special summon plays for the deck. And I also run 3 Signet Mining. It's just a very important card in the deck for more of your search setup. Being able to resolve Gazelle after sending a Salamangreat and searching out other ones is very, very useful. And I know we're getting a reprint of this card in Dual Overload, so just remember that as well. That'll hopefully be much easier to gain access to people who don't have the Signet Mining. Signet Backdoor can be a spot to fill in for this card also if you have it and you're just looking for more of a budget route for the Salamangreat deck currently, but still very, very useful overall. And I also run 3 Call by the Grave, just a great way to shut down the monsters in your opponent's graveyard, whether they be hand traps or just, pesky monsters that you don't want your opponent's effects resolving with their cards. So that's why I like to main deck 3 of the Call by the Grave. And that is it for the spells. Moving on to the traps, I've decided to bump up the amount of Salamangreat Rage I run in the deck to 2. This card was just really, really good, especially when I get my extra link rating on the first turn, and I set up a Rage, so if my opponent goes to set up their board, I have an easy pop 2 or 3, because usually I'll have Sunlight Wolf or Heatlio on the field, and then destroy that many cards on my opponent's field, and you only target the Salamangreat card with that effect, and then you just destroy up to those cards on your opponent's field. So the effect doesn't target also, which is very, very useful. Or you just have the send one Salamangreat card from your hand or face up on the field to the graveyard to target a card on the field and destroy it. So it's great. I can always respond to cards like Evenly Matched, save my Salamangreat cards on the field by sending them, and then have other cards to prevent. But if my opponent gets rid of the 1 Rage and I like to recycle it, that's why I run 2 in the deck now, just so I have more options to go for. And I run 1 Salamangreat Roar. You can set up this card with Gazelle in the graveyard, then reset it on the field with cards like Falco, or add it back to your hand with Sunlight Wolf. That's why I only run 1 of this. I've been using Rage a lot more for my destruction plays. Roar just comes in handy to stop my opponent's cards, so I can keep my field presence safe. That's still just the 1 I feel is all you really need for the deck. And lastly, I run the 3 Solemn Strike. If you have infinite impermanence, you can try this spot instead. I know it's more of an expensive spot and not everyone has it. That's why I like the Solemn Strike board for now instead of that card. But if you have that card, it can easily be replaced with Solemn Strike. Just stopping monsters and preventing the summon of it can be a big help against a lot of your opponent's decks. And you don't really use life points for anything else in this deck, so Solemn Strike being the 1 spot to fill it in is definitely useful. And that is it for the main deck. We'll now move on to the extra deck. I still run the 3 Salamangreat Bowlinks. This was actually one that a lot of people at my local said was going to get hit to 1. I didn't really see it, but, I guess anything could have been possible. I definitely didn't see Mirage Heatlio happening, and yet it still did. It protects your Salamangreats in the graveyard, and then also gives you the search for the field spell, when you can easily summon this with just 1 level 4 lower Cyberse monster on the field. And I also run the 3 Salamangreat Sunlight Wolves, probably the most important link monster in the deck, just being able to add back your fire monsters to your hand. You can even recycle Ash Blossom with it, and also giving you the Salamangreat Spell Trap recycle effect when it's reincarnated with another Sunlight Wolf onto the field. And I also run the 2 Salamangreat Heatlio. This one, actually, if you have Pyro Phoenix, you can try both spots out. I have a pretty high Link 4 count in the deck, so that's why I decided just to run the Heatlio instead. Or you can even take out some of the other Link 4s I'm running for Pyro Phoenix, but that's just player preference. It shuffles back cards and gives you resources by getting over your opponent's boss monsters. But yeah, you only really need the 2 Heatlio for that, like usual. Then for some of the more generic links, I run the 1 Nightmare Phoenix just for more destruction support, especially of like field spells or just back row in general with the deck. And being a fire monster helps because it can go into cards like Heatlio also on the field. And then for the Link 4s, I run 1 Yugioh Skull Dread. If you have Apollosa, you can put in for this spot instead, but just really, really good as long as you have the different named monsters on the field to link summon with this and get a little more draw power. The 1 Boral Sword for the more offensive plays also, and the 1 Mech Knight Crusadia definitely does come in handy for difficulty of your opponent getting over. And then for the Exceed monsters, I'm actually running 2 Dante of the Burning Abyss. This card with its graveyard setup definitely does come in handy. It can set up Spinny, Jaguar, put Salamangreat Spell Traps that I didn't have otherwise because I had to rely on Gazelle for a monster send and then go for the link play. But having Dante for that Exceed summon afterwards definitely does help because there's the chance I could mill something that can definitely be more useful in the graveyard instead for me. If you have Firefist Lion Emperor, that can also be a spot you can fill in, so you can run 1 Dante and 1 Lion Emperor. But if you don't have the Lion Emperor, I feel Dante or number 75 can also be a good spot for the rank 3s to play in this deck, just giving you more draw power. But Dante definitely, I really do like the playstyle that's giving for the deck, being able to have plenty of setup in your graveyard to use. And then for the rank 4s, the Abyss Dweller is the spot I like still, being able to shut down my opponent's graveyard with my level 4 Salamangreats. Being able to make this early on definitely does help and put a damper to my opponent's plays. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I'm definitely going to be working on some other Banlist decks, so definitely look forward to that. But until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.